our 2025 last lecture. Tarleton State University held its first last lecture in 2014, following the model made popular by Dr. Randy Pausch of Carnegie Mellon. Each of our distinguished last lecture speakers have been given the same prompt. If you had one last chance to impart wisdom from your life experiences, what would you say? Over the years, we've been honored to hear last lecture presentations from the late Dr. Chris Guthrie, as well as Dr. Jim Kirby, Dr. Jim Gentry, Dr. Rudy Tarpley, Dr. Casey Thompson, Dr. David Frazier, Dr. Reggie Hall, and Dr. Wendell Sadler. If any of our previous last lecture speakers are with us today, please stand so we can acknowledge you. This year, Dr. Amber Harris Bozer has been selected as our distinguished speaker. Dr. Harris Bozer grew up right here in Stephenville, where her passion for the sciences began. This led not only to a distinguished career in neuroscience, but also to many transformative experiences at Tarleton State University. She is a scientist, an educator, a mentor, and perhaps most importantly, a mode of the kind of curiosity and care we hope to instill in all of our students. Please help me welcome Dr. Amber Harris Bozer to the stage.
Tarleton State. So I'm so thankful for the Center for Educational Excellence. I want to thank the selection committee for this opportunity, President and First Lady Hurley as well. Thank you, Dr. Hurley, for selecting me for this opportunity and for the vote of confidence. I really appreciate that. Also, Provost Stearns, who is more than a provost to me. She has mentored me through learning about research grants, through the development of our new Department of Neuroscience, and I know that she does that for a lot of people here. She does a lot of personal mentorship with her faculty here, which is an amazing thing, a gift of time from a provost who doesn't have much time. So thank you. And other people who have helped build the Department of Neuroscience, including but not limited to Nikki and Tori Civitello, who have gone to great lengths to help that department get up and going. I love you guys. Thank you so much. And Dr. Max Sanderford, who agreed to take over as department head, and bless his heart, he has to be my department head because I'm a lot. So y'all, please do something nice for Max in the next year. He deserves it. And media and marketing and the sound guys back there, the event staff, and Kyle Hoffman, we're so glad that you brought your talents back to Tarleton. I was so excited to see you come home. The College of Science and Math, especially the leadership team, Dr. Kristen Herman, Kathy Smith, Daniel Marvel, the department heads that took me in and mentored me on how to be a department head over the last year. That was pretty amazing. And also Max Sanderford again, and our deans Phil Sudman and Kevin Johnson, thank you so much. But also the faculty and staff in the College of Science and Math, who were my longtime collaborators and friends, but now I'm on the team, and they've really showed up for neuroscience in all the ways, and I appreciate and love every one of them. The students at Tarleton, the staff, the faculty, and when I look out tonight, I see family, friends, and colleagues, and it's really hard to put you guys in bins. You know, I see frolics over here and over there, right? So you all have dual roles. Thank you so much. My mentors who are here, and Dr. Leslie Leach, who I reported to for 6 years when I worked in just about how to be a leader that leads with compassion and consideration and thoughtfulness. So she's very special to me as well. And 10-5, every single research lab should have a 10-5 because we keep buying equipment and I keep breaking that equipment. And then Tim fixes it, and then the students can get the data to go to conferences they know. So your fan club is up here, 10-5. We love you. Thank you for everything you do for our research here. And my best friend, Andrea Seaman, who does so many things here, I can't even summarize them all. There are some neuroscientists watching from other institutions on the live stream, so I want to shout out to you guys, my neuroscience community. And then just say et al, because that's not what I came here to do, right? So I got to wrap that up. I want to give an extra special shout out to my family. These are my boys. My husband, Bozer, is up here. He's a detective. I'm really proud of him. He's a brilliant man. But something else to know about him is that there's nothing that he won't do for his family. He's a great dad and husband. And we actually met in 2008 in the OA grant building, and it took some convincing, like about a semester and a half for me to convince him that it would be a good fit. But once we did, we've been together since then. I think about 17 years now. I got scared of him at first, because you guys know when I have a goal, I'm going to go with that goal, right? And so I think I scared him a little bit. But anyways, we have a child together. We're married, so I guess you could say it's getting pretty serious. Yes, this is our son, Britton. We love Britton Bozer. He's our sunshine. He is such a sweet guy. He has such a great heart and soul, and he's brilliant. I'm so proud of him. I have a very, very big family. I can't talk about all my family. I've tried to put them up here. And they mean so much to me. You might have noticed my sister Becca here in the front row. She looks like me, but she's not me. She's cool. She's not a nerd. She's cool, right? And so sometimes y'all might shout at her at Walmart or something like that. And like, why isn't Amber talking to me? But it's because it's Becca. And I love her with my whole heart. And my mom and my sister's beautiful family, my nephews. And Jay's going to marry Carly, and we're so excited to have a niece in the family as well. And I can't do a shout out to everybody, but I want to show you that picture there in the bottom left. We got married on a cruise, and we took 40 people with us. And so we did a real quick ceremony, and then we celebrated for a week. And most of the people that I haven't mentioned are in that photo there. When I found out that I was selected for this opportunity, I wanted to know who was responsible. And so I asked about that, and I found out that the nominator was Bella Kazmidi, sitting over here right behind the president. Bella did her bachelor's and her master's degree at Tarleton, and she did a master's thesis in my lab. And we've been through it together. We rebuilt a whole lab together, too. We did a lot of studies because Bella came to me and said she wanted to study cellular and systems neuroscience at UT Dallas. And I was like, okay, but those guys at UT Dallas don't play. They're world class, so you're going to have to be busy. And she did that, she did all that, and I'm so proud to say that she's now in their doctoral program for that at neuroscience, and we're so proud of her. So thank you, Bella, for this opportunity. I want to acknowledge the last lecture speakers, including those that are here tonight, and I know that you've already stood up, so I won't make you do it again. But I want to give an extra special shout out to Jim Gentry, who, when he found out that I was selected as this year's speaker, has called me and checked on me and come by my office and offered me encouragement. But that's not a unique experience if you know Jim. That's who Jim is, and he does that for all of us. All the time. And so I love you, Jim. Thank you for your encouragement and everything you've taught me since I've come back as faculty 12 years ago. And this is not customary. Usually we just say thank you, but I want to make the motion that we should start doing anti-acknowledgements, right? So something I'm not thankful for is there's this one squirrel outside of the education building that runs in front of my legs every morning when I'm trying to get into the lab, and I just think we should do something about that. And I also really want to not thank my nervous system, because one of the things about nervous systems is that it doesn't know the difference between giving a big talk and being chased by a life-threatening predator, right? So just some things to not be thankful for. All right, but this is my assignment. I'm supposed to talk about the last lecture prompt, which is if you had one last chance to impart wisdom from your life experiences, what would you say? So the first thing I want to say is that that's called the last lecture, but if you're in my class, I see a couple of you, we're having class tomorrow morning. We're having class for the rest of the semester. We're going to talk about the anterior cingulate cortex, and as you know, that's my favorite brain area, so don't skip class tomorrow. So it's not my last lecture, I hope. But I thought about who does this well. right? And so the prototypical really good example of who gave a great last lecture was Carnegie Mellon's Randy Pausch. If you haven't seen it, you can watch it online, just like you can watch the Tarleton last lectures, like Jim Kirby's and Jim Gentry's, for example. You can look those up and watch those. And Randy Pausch said that we should really live out our childhood dreams. And so I thought it would be really beautiful if I got up here and told you a really compelling story about how from the time I was old enough to think, I knew I wanted to be a neuroscientist, and then I set into motion these things that would lead up to that, right? That sounds good. Yeah. That's a lie. I can't do that. I didn't want to be a neuroscientist when I was a kid, and actually if you had a time machine and you put me in it and you said, hey girl, you're going to be a department head of neuroscience one day, I probably would have laughed. So neuroscience was not my dream. Like most of us when we're kids, we don't look inward, we look outward. We look at the exteroceptive cues in our environment. And I grew up outside of Hico. We moved there in 1990, 1991. So Mom says yes, 1991. And living out in Hico in 1991 was great. There's no light pollution out there, so you can see billions of stars, right? There are still lightning bugs outside everywhere at night. When you go outside, it's magical. There were big fields of India paintbrush flowers, and you could still catch horned toads before all the ants were gone. And so I became a little bit of a naturalist, and I was interested in the external world. But I make the case now that although we talk about space as the final frontier, there's a frontier within us. It's in our own brain. There's still a whole lot to learn about the brain and a lot of problems to solve. And so while there were clues in my early life that I could be a neuroscientist, I was oblivious to them, and I was looking outside. And so that frontier would have to wait. And so again, going back, if you had one last chance to impart wisdom from life experiences, what would you say? And I promised Carl Aho I would do a shout out, and this is the moment, this is Carl's moment, because what I really needed is for this to be a week where we have the booth where you can ask a question to the philosopher, right? You can ask a philosopher, because I would have walked up to Dr. Aho and I would have said, what is wisdom, right? Okay, but I Googled it instead, and that's fine. So wisdom is the ability to make good judgments based on what you have learned from your experience. And so I'm going to try to do that tonight. I'm going to give you 5 pieces of wisdom based on my life experience to answer this question. Okay, so the first piece of wisdom that I want to impart is that education is a luxury. We don't celebrate it enough. This is a picture of my great-great-grandmother, me and my sister's great-great-grandmother. She's laughing at me because her grandson's making a bunch of noise right now. She was born in 1881, and she died in 1904 in her early 20s, shortly after having 2 children, and she's interred at Chalk Mountain, about 20 miles from here. And if you think that makes us a townie, it's worse than that. We go back 8 generations in this area, right? So we really have roots in this area. Tarleton College opened in 1899. And so it was around for a few years, but she was already having babies and she had gotten sick, best I can tell through the record. And the thing about her is, she just missed a window of time where she could grow up peripherally to Tarleton State University knowing that she could select a major and have an education based on what she's passionate about. Homo sapiens have been on this earth, as we know them, about 300,000 years. And out of all of those 300,000 years, everyone in this room was born now. We were born now when Tarleton State exists. This ballroom is here. These people are here. We can have this job and we can declare that we're going to be academics and have a field of study. And what a privilege. She didn't have it. I was talking to Dr. Schaus about her one day, and we just wondered what might she have studied if she had had the opportunity. Would she have studied English with my friend, Dr. Justice Burry? Maybe engineering with Neil Petroff, right? Maybe she wanted to look at parasites with Dr. Kristen Herman. We don't know. She didn't have the opportunity. So education is a luxury that we have, and I feel super blessed to have grown up next to Tarleton, knowing that I could go to college when I grow up if I wanted to. But her granddaughter had that opportunity. This is my grandmother's sister. She was enrolled in John Tarleton Agricultural College, was the ROTC cadet course sweetheart, studied business for a little while. And these are pictures from the 1943 Grasper. And so she had the opportunity, right? And then here I am, a couple generations later. And another thing that I want to say about education is that it's not all about discipline and being studious and meeting the deadlines. There's a lot of adventuring to be had in education. I'm going to talk to the students about that for a minute. You know, I love to give a compelling speech about all the places that science can take you, right? There's a whole lot of adventuring to be had. So this is a picture of me a little over 20 years ago. I'm sitting on the fridge in the back of a convenience store. My sister Becca and I used to get up before the sun came up or stay after the sun came down to open or close that convenience store. She was my manager and I was afraid of her, so I showed up on time. She was a good boss. She was a good boss. But we packed 10-pound bags of ice and we threw big containers of ice over our head into the fountain. We changed large trash bags. We did all kinds of hard work. And while I was there and I was doing that work, I did not think that I would be a world traveler. I thought that that was for people who were born into money, right? I didn't think that I was going to have those adventures, but education did that. These are the roles that I've had at Tarleton State over the last 20-something years, and when that picture was taken, I had that first job. I was a high school student. I would go to high school during the day, and I would come up here and take a biology lab at night. And those of you that work in biology, don't look up what my grades were in those first 2 labs. Just look at me now, but don't look at those then. But all of those other roles brought so many adventures through study abroad, through research opportunities, through other opportunities with students, and just the lifestyle that being a faculty member allows. Because the university closes in December when it's cold, and my husband and I could get on a ship and go get in the jungle in South America, and we did. So education can do that for you. With my students, we have swam with the white-tipped reef sharks, walked amongst tortoises that were hundreds of years old. We found the Mona Lisa. Uh-oh. Did you relaunch me? I clicked something. Thanks. And I mean, we sang under the Eiffel Tower. I think we found Batman on the Berlin Wall. I've been to 25 countries so far, most of those with students. And that is a luxury that education can afford to you. And so if that's not in your cards already, I want you to think about that. But for whatever reason, Nikki was in my lab during a time we didn't go anywhere interesting. I think we went to Houston and we went to a small town in Arkansas. And so here's Nikki at the Buc-ee's. So there's always a caveat. Everybody else went somewhere fun and Nikki didn't. But I think she'll have other opportunities later in her future. We're busy working. Okay. So that's education as a luxury. Let's embrace it. Let's celebrate it. Let's lean into all of the opportunities that can give us to change our life trajectory. The second piece of advice that I want to give is to find our purpose. Because when we live a life that's in alignment with our purpose, it feels really good. I did not make this concept up. A few years ago, I had an opportunity to serve as a mentor to junior faculty who were teaching in neuroscience at different institutions all over the United States. And I noticed that many of them were struggling with finding their place in the academic machine, and they would say, I don't know what my job should be. But we really got together and felt like it should be about what your life should be, and then you build your job around it. And so this concept is a good way to find your purpose if you're looking for your purpose in life. We can consider what we're good at, what we love to do, what lights our fire, what the world needs, and then what you get paid for. Because listen, these Snickers I'm eating for breakfast, they're not free, right? You got to get paid to do it too. So that's how you find your purpose in life. And when we find that spot where all of those things are together, it's amazing. And when we find that spot, we can help other people find that spot too. And so it would be so great if we could all live a life of purpose. There may be people here who don't know what their purpose is yet, and so I would encourage those people to think about what happened in their past. It might be hiding in your past. So this is my dad, born in 1953. He was great, and people still remember him for being a really good person. He was a man of principle. He worked hard for his family. He was strict, but he was also silly, and he knew how to have a whole lot of fun. And our adult friends are in their late 30s and early 40s, but they still talk about the birthday parties that he would plan for his girls and the treasure hunts and the creativity and imagination he would put into it. But when I was about 7 years old, he got sick. He got what we thought was the flu. And after a couple weeks, the flu didn't really resolve. And he started to get these sensory paresthesias, where he felt this tingling in his fingers and his toes. And that gave way to feeling like he was being jabbed with ice picks. And the skin started falling off of the bottom of his feet, right? And after a while, we found out that he had chronic inflammatory demyelinating polyradiculoneuropathy, which is why we call it CIDP, because nobody has time for that, right? That is a very obscure, debilitating chronic pain disorder that he struggled with from the time I was 7 until he passed away when I was 15 years old, the summer that I turned 15. He didn't get to see his girls grow up. He never met his grandsons or his great-grandson who's here with us tonight. And that's a tragedy in and of itself, the time that was missed. But the suffering that happened when he was here is something that has compelled me to have a career in understanding pain, right? So that's an alignment with your purpose. That's the kind of thing that I want to share. But this is not a unique story. I'm not telling you about him because you've never heard about this before. 1 in 5 people in this room suffers from chronic pain, statistically. It's more than 60 million Americans. It's a prolific public health concern. This problem has not been solved yet. And those of us that study chronic pain, our goal is not to eradicate it because it can be adaptive. It can signal to us that there's danger, right? And this is best shown by people who have a genetic condition called congenital analgesia, who have the inability to experience pain or the severely diminished capacity to experience pain. And as babies, they might chew on their fingers or chew on their lips. And as adults, they might back into a heat source without knowing, right? So pain has an adaptive function for us from an evolutionary perspective. And so we don't want to get rid of it, but we want to manage it, right? We want to understand more about how to manage it because it's no longer adaptive when it's chronic or when it takes a special person from us like my dad. And so I like this quote here because it really sums it up. Pain is a more terrible lord of mankind than even death itself, right? So this is my purpose. This is why I'm here. This is a worthwhile purpose. But when you're finding your purpose, it doesn't mean that everything is easy. And so that brings me to my next piece of advice. You're going to need some tenacity, right? When you're living your life with purpose and you're plotting out your life. And so when I was thinking about this piece, I thought, who's the most tenacious person that I've ever met in my life? That would be Donna Reed Harris. That's my mama. She's sitting up here in the front. And yes, she has a name that's shared with a movie star, Donna Reed. And there's a lot of things that you could know about my mom. She's a complex woman. She's brilliant. She's strong. She's a firecracker. But I'm just going to tell you one thing to know about her. She has cerebral palsy, right? It doesn't define her, but it is relevant to the current story. And so when Mama was growing up, she couldn't write. She couldn't hold a pen because the kind of cerebral palsy that she has is called spastic cerebral palsy, and so she wasn't able to do that with the muscle tone and the spasms. But there's nothing wrong with her ability to think, right? It's just getting it down on paper in the way that people thought we had to. So they pulled her out of gen ed classes. I don't think it was called special ed because the special ed laws hadn't hit. And so she wasn't able to learn or participate in the same activities as everyone else. And some people might have said, oh, you know, well, dang, that's not fair. Not my mama. You tell my mama she can't do something, shoot, you're going to be corrected. And so my mom got a hold of a typewriter. That is a picture of that typewriter there in the 1960s that she physically carried around for the rest of her education so that she could demand to be in general education classes. And this woman, since the moment she was born, has been told by many different people she couldn't do things. You can't be in gen ed, you can't get married, you can't birth children, you can't have a job. She did all those things, and she did it while she set an example. And so if my mom can do that, we can do that. We can embrace that tenacity, right? And so that's what will get us through to seeing out our goals and our purpose. But when we're working through that and we're embracing our tenacity, we're going to need mentors. You can't do it on your own. You have to align yourself with people who know what they're doing, who have been there before. And so my next piece is about mentorship, which is probably the most important piece to me. Mentorship is the greatest tool that we have to change the world. And I know that through the research vehicle, because I'm really researchy, we like research, right? But there are other ways in which you can mentor people, but I'm going to talk about what I know, right? I know that research is the vehicle for which my entire career was transformed, and I can now provide opportunities to other students that are coming up in the world after me. And so I see the power of mentorship. And I'm going to talk about some of my mentors as an example of how that works. So when I came here to Tarleton State, I was interested in psychology, and I did not know that I was going to be a neuroscientist. I thought that I wanted to be a clinical psychologist, and that would have been bad. That would have been bad for me. That would have been bad for people coming in the office. That was bad, and I figured that out in my senior year here. I was a senior at Tarleton, and I thought, oh, no, that's not going to work. And so I was a little bit lost for a second. The psychology club was going to go on a trip to UT Arlington to tour some of the research labs. And I wasn't going to go, but I heard there was free lunch involved, and the free lunch was going to be from this place called Chipotle, and I'd never been there. And so I went. And while I was there, I was walking around the research labs, and I met someone named Perry Fuchs, who would ultimately become my mentor later. And I learned that his entire research lab was dedicated to studying pain. And further, when I was talking to one of his doctoral students who was prepping for a surgery, who's since become a good friend and colleague of mine, Megan Uhelsky, they mentioned the name of a disease that was much like the one my dad had. I had never heard anyone utter anything about that outside of my own family. It was like this light bulb went off. What do you mean you can spend your life studying this thing about pain? But I was not ready to get into a PhD program. Mandy Mason, Jennifer Diaz, Bob Newby, they suggested that I get a master's at Tarleton, and Bob suggested that I do a master's thesis under his mentorship, which I did. And this man allowed me to do a neuroscience project when we had no neuroscience lab, no neuroscientists, and no funding. But we figured it out. And if it weren't for Bob, I think I wouldn't have been competitive for a PhD in neuroscience, so I'm so thankful for him. And along the way, we have formal mentors, but sometimes when people are a lot, like myself, you need extra, right? And so Jason Lyons probably got no credit for mentoring me, but was a co-mentor to me. And he taught me all about how to get into doctoral school and the professional part, and how to suit up. He took me to my first research conference. Kayla Peak was also on that bus. And we went to the Pathways to Doctorate program, and I'm so thankful for him. And then I went on and I started to work for Perry Fuchs. And in those first 3 years of my doctoral education, Perry and I were very productive. I did a lot of experiments in his lab on behavioral neuroscience, and he cultivated in me a love for knowing your literature, understanding the pain literature, which I have passed on to my future research lab. And I'm so thankful for that opportunity. And just down the hall was an electrophysiologist, Dr. Rambo Peng, and he allowed me to do a dissertation in his lab and do some local field potential studies, and that's when I learned to be an independent scientist. He prepared me for my faculty role, and his birthday was Sunday, so if you're listening, Dr. Peng, happy birthday. We love you. And again, I'm extra, so I also needed Linda Parati. She didn't get any credit from me, but she mentored me a lot. She still does today. And since being a faculty member, I stopped doing research with rats and I started doing research with humans. And that requires a different way of thinking. And so Angela Luigi-Dougal, who had been a faculty member at UTA, dumped a whole lot of time into teaching me how to do that she didn't get paid for. There's nothing on her CV she gets from that. And so the point is, without all of these people pouring into me, I wouldn't be the person that I am today, and I wouldn't be able to have a whole row of students that I'm transferring this knowledge onto. So mentorship is powerful, even if it's hard to measure. But at some point when we're in doctoral school, we stop thinking about our own scientific discoveries and our own career and how we're going to get a job, and we start to think about other people. My people that I think about are right here on this second row, my former and current lab students. And so my former students have taught me such a great deal. We've got master's students listed here and undergraduate students. Many of them have gone on to get, they're working on their PhDs in neuroscience at various institutions. Christian studying clinical psychology, we're proud of that too. And so some of them came home tonight and I'm so thankful. They teach me stuff too. They taught me about Canva. They taught me that you don't recruit students on Facebook because that's for old people, and I need to be on Instagram. They taught me how to make graphics, and they're teaching me how to do contemporary slang. Low key. Yeah? But the future looks bright in our lab. Sarah Love actually showed up on my academic doorstep in high school saying, I want to be a neuroscientist. Just imagine. And she's been in the lab a couple years, and she's doing great things, and she's leading a team of new students who are doing some big projects in the lab now. So these people teach me, and I teach them. But mentorship is a gift. It can't be measured. It doesn't matter about what you can put on your CV. It doesn't matter if you get paid to do it. That's why we're here, right? It's the most important thing that we do, and the only way that you pay it back is to pay it forward. And our brains die at some point, not to be morbid. But when your brain is gone, it's still here, because there's a collective conscious that you shared with the other people that are there, and that's how this knowledge gets passed on. But while we're trying to be the best mentors that we can be, we might identify a problem that the people coming up in the world after us can't make it the same way that we did. I would not be competitive for a PhD program in neuroscience currently if I had had the CV that I went up with when I went up with. The problems that they face, the competitiveness that they face is a whole new level, and it hasn't even been that long. And so they face a different world than we did, so we can't do it the way that they do. But they don't always have the agency and the power to make that change yet, and they rely on us to figure out how the new world is and make those changes for them. And so when we mentor, we have to build. We have to build into the new world for the people that are coming after us. So my next piece of advice is that we should spend our time building for others. And I'm going to talk about someone who is a really good builder of things. This is our founder, John Tarleton. We wouldn't have anything we have here today without him, or our jobs, or our education, our alma mater. And through his donation, John Tarleton College was opened in 1899. And it is not because he was born into imminent wealth. He wasn't wealthy. He lived a very frugal life, actually. And when he began to amass money, he gave it so that others could have education because he saw the value in it. And that one man made a donation at the end of his life that allowed this institution to open. And because of that, there are thousands of people in the world walking around with a degree from Tarleton State University. That's one person. Think about what one person can do when we build for others. And I think that that's really summarized well in this. It's beautifully stated. I was born in 1899 from the soul of an itinerant farmer. Any of us can do this. Any of us can build for other people. For example, Dr. Bob Newby started psychology at Tarleton. He came here in the 70s. Psychology wasn't here. Started the first psychology classes and was a long-time department head of psychology. And that's a picture of me and Bob there. I do have pictures of Bob and I from when I did research with him, and I was trying to fit them on here, and they kept looking fuzzy, and I thought something was wrong with the PowerPoint, but it's because they were taken with the first cell phones that existed. And so they weren't going to be good pictures. So this is a recent picture, so we go way back. But at some point when I was working on my doctoral degree, I started to talk to Bob again about coming home and teaching a couple neuroscience courses that we had here. And then he said, and maybe you can open up an experimental psychology lab that has a neuro flavor. And it went way beyond that. Once we got going, we continued to build. The students wanted a neuroscience club, which we did, and a lot of the buck stopped at the time with the dean, Jordan Barkley, who some of you will remember and know. And he funded Tarleton's first neuroscience lab with the EEG. And he also said yes to our minor in neuroscience. And so shout out to Jordan and thank you for that. And then recently we opened the new Department of Neuroscience and the bachelor's degree in neuroscience because Dr. Stearns was our administrative champion and she believed in what neuroscience could do, and she allowed us to have that for the students because they'd been asking. And this is our new neuroscience office pictured here. And behind that door is the manifestation of my wildest dreams. It's here. And it's here for these people sitting in this row right here tonight. And it's because she said yes. And when you're building, there's seasons of no and there's seasons of yes. And the seasons of no may really just be not yet. You know, we don't have the capacity, or it's not the right time, or we have other priorities, but you just keep being persistent. And that vision doesn't have to be in everybody else's brain. It just has to be in yours and probably a couple administrative champions as well, right? And it's not your job to convince everybody of your vision, because not everybody can see it until it's built. A lot of people will see it when it's built, and they do. And because Tarleton has said yes through Dr. Stearns and Dr. Hurley's support, we have students in the room tonight that are bachelor students in neuroscience for the first time, right? These people are going to change the world. Some of them want to be a PhD in neuroscience, some of them an MD, somebody wants to be a pediatric neurosurgeon. 2 of them want to be PhD MDs, right? Amazing. They will hold in their hands the most complex organ in the known universe. And they will contemplate how memory and learning and language work. They will fix problems related to Alzheimer's, dementia, chronic pain, and the plagues of the earth. They're pointing at themselves, yes, these people are in this room right now. And they will do that because Tarleton said yes to neuroscience. And they will interface with artificial intelligence in ways that we could never have imagined currently. And I'm so thankful for that. So we're building for others. If you wait to build until a time that you feel like you're ready, or everybody else is ready for you, you're never going to build anything. Don't wait. Don't let imposter syndrome slow you down. And I'm not talking about doing stuff you're not credentialed to do. If you need to go out and get some training or get a credential, go do it. But build when you're ready. And don't wait until society thinks you fit the mold. If I had a quarter for every time somebody told me I was too young to do something I was trying to do, I would probably have, 1,000 quarters. That's really not a lot. I'm looking at the math people. That's like $125. I was going to say I'd be rich, but that didn't work out. But the point is, I've heard that my whole life. You're too young to get a PhD. You're too young to be tenured. You're too young to be a department. It's okay. It is okay. You don't have to see the vision. I'm the one that wants to build it. It's not going to get built because nobody else wants to build it, right? And so it's okay to build when you're young or when you're different or when you don't quite fit in the mold. It's okay. People will see it when it's there. And you can be the best example you can be at any time. I want to talk about a couple people who have not waited to build for others that we can all learn from and look up to. One person is here tonight, Nikki Civitello. So Nikki finished a master's degree in my lab last spring. And she got accepted into a PhD program at UT Arlington in neuroscience. She's working on some fMRI, EEG things, really world-class research with Dr. Crystal Cooper, and we're so proud of that. But what a lot of people would have done is spend the summer having a party or taking a break, right? Definitely taking a break. Nikki didn't take a break. Nikki knew that the Department of Neuroscience was going to be built. And she lit up like a Christmas tree every time I talked about the future students of neuroscience, that we're going to be here after she left. So she spent that summer drafting a website, helping me learn how social media works because I was still in Facebook, teaching me how to use Canva, all kinds of things that she did to build neuroscience. So Nikki didn't wait until someone told her she was, progressed enough in her career to build a department of neuroscience. She said, Bozer, let's go, right? And she lit a fire under me, and I'm so thankful for that. Also, Kaylee Colpitz. Kaylee Colpitz was a neuroscience student at Tarleton. She did a thesis in my lab. She went on to be a data analyst at the University of New Mexico in their Department of Neurosurgery. And she joined the PhD program at Texas A&M Institute of Neuroscience at our mothership. We're so proud of her. And she's a busy lady. She's a teaching assistant. She's taking doctoral coursework in neuroscience, and she's studying spinal cord injury in the lab. That's enough. I mean, she's busy. But instead of just focusing on her own self, she noticed when she looked around there that there weren't any other former Tarleton students in the program, and she set off to remedy that. She went out and found a grant that would be a pathways program that she could spearhead, and she invited me and a staff member, Sylvia Bernal-Jones at Texas A&M, to write a grant so that 5 Tarleton students can spend their summers in Tammany labs doing research and then get preferred admittance into the doctoral program, so that in a couple years there's going to be 5 more students in that program, and a year after that 5 more, and a year after that 5 more, because Haley didn't wait. Haley didn't wait until she was a faculty member. She's making a difference now. And that's something that we can look up to, right? She's building for others. She said, I am so thankful for the opportunities that Tarleton and Texas A&M is giving to me, and I'm going to turn around and give those opportunities to somebody else. And I'm so proud of that. And so sometimes we're sold some snake oil, right? We're sold something in a bottle, and we're told that it's going to work for us, and it doesn't really work the way you think it will. And I'm just going to do a shameless plug. If you want to learn more about stuff that gets sold in bottles and what it does to your nervous system, you can take my neuropharmacology class in the fall. Now open for enrollment. Should be a riot. But one of the pieces of snake oil that we're really sold in this life is individualism. Humans were not meant to be individualistic. We are collectivistic. Individualism is not the way. We are all connected, and what we do impacts everyone around us. And so, I'm going to liken this back to something that has to do with the brain, right? In the lab, we use the electroencephalogram to record from brain activity. And alone, one of the billions of neurons that you have in your brain cannot produce enough electricity that we can record from it. But taken together, when they work together, they produce a signal that's strong enough that we can pick it up from a metal electrode sitting on the outside of your brain. Because whether you knew it or not, you're really a wet bag of electric meat. You've got so much electricity going on, so billions of neurons in your body, right? And so alone, these cells can't do it on their own, but taken together, the neurons produce a signal that's strong enough to be recorded. Like neurons, we're all connected. Dr. Hurley is connected to each of us, right? Radio is connected to some of the people in this audience. We're all connected in many different ways. And using those connections, our most worthwhile contributions are the things that we build that make the way for people coming after us that are more than ourselves. So I'm not talking about taking care of ourselves and going home. I'm talking about building for other people in a collectivistic way. So to loop back around to the prompt I was given, if I had one last chance to impart wisdom from my life experiences, what would I say? I would say that education is a luxury. We should celebrate it and cherish it and let it ignite and cultivate our curiosity and let it guide us towards finding our purpose. We'll have to be tenacious in that pursuit, and discovery will favor the persistent. We will share what we learn. We will mentor others that are coming after us, and our knowledge will only grow and get better for our species as it's passed on. We will build not just for ourselves, but for other people, and it's through connection that our work really finds its true meaning. And so in conclusion, just like in our scientific endeavors, in our lives, curiosity and human connection remain our greatest tools for advancing humanity. Thank you.
Bozer, for your heartfelt words and wisdom that you imparted on all of us this evening. So next, we're going to welcome to the stage Tarleton State University's president, Dr. James Hurley, and he is going to come up and present Dr. Harris Bozer the Last Lecture Award. Thank you, Dr. Hurley and Dr. Stearns, and thank you, Dr. Harris Bozer. It's To everyone who joined us this evening, whether in person or online, we are so glad that you were here. The last lecture is a celebration of both wisdom and legacy, and we hope you leave tonight inspired to keep learning, mentoring, and exploring new ideas. We look forward to seeing you at the next last lecture series. Thank you. And Dr. Harris Bozer has asked that her lab students, as well as her family, stick around for some photos. So thank you.